side is done, let's talk about the tail. If I put it down here, it's going to look a bit like a monkey. And if I put it over to the side, it'll look like another arm or a leg or something kind of weird. Ideally, we want it right in the middle of the back. But do you see the challenge with this? The frayed edge of our fabric will show. So we'll tuck the edges in. I'm using my handy dandy paintbrush. If you have a skewer or a pencil, that'll work fine too. There we go. Now all of my edges are tucked in. I can decide right where I want it. And I'm going to stitch the tail on with the same stitch that we used to sew our bean bags closed. Normally I would choose a color thread that's the same color as the fabric or that matches one of the colors in the fabric. But because I want you guys to see what I'm doing, I'm choosing a color that's really bright and very different from the other colors. This is going to be the edge I'm going to sew along. So I'll go down and then back up right next to it, and I'll tie my end knot. Remember, it's okay if there's a tail because we can just hide it later. Now I need to decide where it's going to go. Probably right here in the middle, maybe a little bit lower, kind of down near his bottom. I'm gonna kind of turn it on its side and then try to pin it here. It's so thick, I know I'm gonna have trouble pinning it. Just gonna do my best. Have it sort of pinned in place as best I can, and now I'm going to start sewing it closed. I'm going to go down on the side that's closest to the fabric first, and I'll finish up with this top side. Because I'm going to be sewing this bottom part first, I'm going to bend the fabric and kind of hold it, one finger on the back and one finger on the front, so I can sort of make that little edge that I was used to sewing from last time. I'm gonna go down into my body piece, bend the needle back and push it back up. Pull tight. Now I'll hop back over to the tail right here. I'm gonna go down, then bend my needle back so I can go back up. Tight. Keeps getting caught on my other stuff. Good, now I did it into the tail. Now I need to do it into the back piece. Down, back up. Tug tight. Back to the tail. Down and back up. This is so tricky, I know, but you guys got it. Over to the back. Down and back up. Tuck tight, back to the tail, down and back up. Tug tight. Okay, I'm gonna rotate it a little bit. There we go. Now I notice part of my fabric is escaping, so I'm gonna just push it back in there, tell it to behave. So here I am. I was in my tail, so now I'm going to be in the fabric next to it. Down and back up. Doing good so far. I'm pushing the tail down, kind of adjusting my finger on the back. And I'm going to go into the tail, down and back up. Using my thumb or my finger on the back to push the fabric closer. From the tail to the fabric, down and back up. Back to the tail, down and back up. Oh, I'm really close to done, guys. To the body, down and back up. Tug tight, back to the tail, down and back up. I want my stitch to be really small. Back to the body, down and back up. Back to the tail. I think 2 more stitches. One, and then to the body again. Now that I'm right back where I started, I can either use the strategy that I already know of to do an end knot, or I can tie my new tail to my old tail. Hiding the rest of the thread is super easy. I'll just poke my needle through to the other side. Be a lot easier to hide if I hadn't used electric green thread, but you know, there it is. Now let's unpin it. Make sure it does what we want it to do. Perfect. It does. That'll be a cute cattail.